We'll call to order this Boynton Beach CRA meeting today, Tuesday, February 12th, 2019 at 6:30 p.m. Would everyone please rise for an invocation from Board Member McCray, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let us bow to the Creator, Maker of all mankind. Father, here we are once more again, asking for your guidance, but most of all, asking that you give us a covering. So whatever we do tonight, it will be done decent.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
May I have a roll call, please?
Chair Board Stephen Grant.
Here.
Board Member Amy Kelly.
Here.
Board Member Christina Romulus.
Present.
Board Member Katz. Board Member.
This is McCray here.
We have a quorum?
We have a quorum.
Excellent. Okay, any additions, deletions, or corrections to the agenda? All right.
Chair,
Yes.
excuse me, it's no corrections or deletions or additions, but we do have a new agenda that overpowered the one that I have, and they did give me a copy, so I won't complain tonight. Thank you.
Okay, so the revised agenda. All right, seeing none, may I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor state so by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion passes unanimously. Moving on to legal.
The CRA board had requested that the CRAB board take a look at whether scholarships and other educational funding could be provided through the CRA. We took a look at this and wrote a memo. It's not one of the powers that is provided to the CRA in the statutes, and those statutes tend to be construed pretty narrowly. If it's something the CRA is really interested in exploring, we could ask for an Attorney General opinion on the matter. The CRA should note that even though that wouldn't be binding, it would be very persuasive in a court of law if the CRA were to choose to go with or against the opinion.
So two things. What is your name?
Oh, sorry, Catherine Rossmell here for Lewis, Longman, and Walker.
Thank you. And yeah, I'd like to see if we can get the Attorney General opinion. I know that CareerSource has this type of training available, or scholarship, and so I don't know if we call it a scholarship or if we call it paid training. So it's really in the question that we ask, and we look at what CareerSource has, because they receive the taxpayer funding, and so that's kind of where I'd like to pursue, with the board's permission, that type of language to request an Attorney General opinion. Yes, Vice Mayor.
I would definitely agree with your translation or your interpretation of the request that was originally made by Commissioner or Board Member Katz. I think that's the direction that we were trying to go in. We're not trying to necessarily fund a scholarship, but more so fund some type of ability for individuals to get funding or get training. That way they can be job ready or contract ready for whatever potential job opportunities there may be out there. So I think that's where we're trying to go with it. So if we can perhaps change the language to reflect that, that would probably make this more feasible.
Okay.
Yes, Board Member McCray.
Thank you, and I think it'll help us if we get rid of the word grant. We don't need grant on there. I'm just saying,
What?
just job
There's something
training.
wrong with that?
No, because it's your last name, okay?
And yeah, I would just say is that it's also bringing any evidence of economic development that we can see with that similar program that CareerSource has.
Okay.
Is it your intent that any funding provided by the CRA for training or for advancement of career-based information be given to the individual or to a program? That might help the writing as well.
It's a reimbursable, so let's say the person, we would designate that they make a living wage. We would pay, after that is paid by the business owner, they give us the report of how many hours was worked, and then we would reimburse them based upon the agreement of the skills up to a certain amount.
Reimburse them for the educational and training?
Yes,
Okay.
aspect of it. All right.
Okay.
We have a comment from the public?
Yes, Linda Cross, 625 Casa Loma Boulevard, Unit 601, Boynton Beach. The CRAB board did review this, and the issue that you've got with this whole problem, and I totally understand that you want to go to the Attorney General, We felt like that wasn't appropriate at this, and after having read the legal memorandum that was written, the issue you have is that this is a grant to a specific individual for education, and that is not what CRA monies are supposed to be used for. If you wanted to make the grant to a business that would then use it for educational purposes for individuals, that would then be a grant to a business like Career Source, I think you have a much stronger footing. But what you're doing is giving a grant to an individual, and that is really not appropriate for CRA money. So I think if you're going to try to get an Attorney General opinion, I think you really need to reword what you're looking at, and giving money specific to a specific individual is not within the CRA. So that's our view, and that's how you presented it to us, and that's why we said don't bother going to the Attorney General.
Yeah, my interpretation is that, you know, we as the city of Boynton Beach, we give out certain grants as well for the hiring of a new position. And so I think we would have to make that contingent as well, is that it's not an existing position that you're training, it's a new position.
So my suggestion would be that you allow legal to work with staff for the next month to come up with a program that we think has the best chance of approval, and we'd bring that back to you, and then with your consent, we could send that for an opinion.
Thank you so much. All right. Moving on to informational items and disclosures by board members and CRA staff. Board Member Katz, would you like to begin?
Nothing at this time.
Board Member McCrae,
Thank you. No disclosure, no information items. Thank you.
Vice Chair Romulus.
I also have nothing to disclose, but again, an early happy Valentine's Day to everyone.
Board Member
Thanks.
Board Member Kelly.
I have nothing to disclose.
I was able to attend the Rock the Plaza on February 9th. I think it was a great event. You know, I really commend the CRA staff for moving what was our music and movies in the park and on the rocks to the different locations in the CRA, to really expanding the services and businesses in the CRA. Also, I was able to attend the Art Walk on January 19th, and you know, the Boynton Beach Art District does have monthly events, and so I wanted to know if the CRA is able to help more with those monthly events than just this once a year.
If the board directed staff and/or funding toward more assistance, then I think that could be something that we do. At current, we only have enough funding to do them. We did one kind of as the plaza, we incorporated it, but yes.
Mine, just the big thing of having that sign when the art walk makes a huge difference because of all the people that are driving by Boynton Beach Boulevard.
Right. Well, social media, all that kind of stuff we can do on a regular basis, for sure. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Any other? Yes.
You know, my take is that, you know, since we've been moving, what was it called before this rock, whatever it was, what was it called? Rock in the...
Music on the Rocks?
Music on the Rocks, okay.
Sure.
My take is that since we've been going around from location to location, if this is working better, maybe this might be something we probably want to consider doing, you know, like, you know, ongoing now.
And definitely, yeah, I agree.
Great.
I think it actually gives more presence to our local businesses and helps them have more of an appeal, and people come to them instead of having them just have a quick little blurb on a video or something. It's actually more productive.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. Seeing no more informational items and disclosures, moving on to announcements and awards.
Good evening, Board. Mercedes Coppin, Business Promotions and Events Manager. First up, we have the recap for the In Culture Art Walk event. The event took place on January 19th. The CRA partnered with the Boynton Beach Art District for the event, and we assisted with the event by coordinating food and beverage vendors, various entertainment acts, as well as securing some logistical enhancements, such as cafe lighting, a performance stage, sound equipment, power, and portalettes. All of those items were well received, and we got positive feedback from the organizer of that event. We estimate that the attendance for that event was about 250 people throughout the night. And based on the feedback survey that was conducted, we learned that 61% of the respondents had never visited the art district. So we were very happy to see that we had activated that area. Overall, the feedback from the event was very positive, with 56% of the attendees rating it as excellent, and all of the participating artists expressing that it was the most successful art walk that they'd had in that area in quite some time. Any questions about the event? Okay. Moving on to Rock the Plaza at 1 Boynton. We held that event on January 25th. That was our second Rock the Plaza event. The event spotlighted the residential and retail offerings of the property, as well as the retail businesses located at 1 Boynton. I did speak with Sarah Burns, who is the Senior Community Director of 1 Boynton. She was very pleased with the event and stated that she had never seen the retail space activated, so where patrons were actually walking throughout the space and visiting the different businesses on a Friday evening. So that was great to hear that. We do estimate that the attendance for that event was approximately 100 people. We believe that the weather significantly impacted the attendance. It was cold that night. It was in the low 60s, so
That was cold.
it was cold for us native Floridians. Excuse me, the survey results indicated that 85% of the respondents intended to patronize plaza businesses either during or after that event. And the businesses that participated at the event were grateful for the exposure and stated that they would highly recommend others participate should the event be held again. Any questions on that event? Okay, moving on to the Rock the Plaza for Ocean Palm Plaza. This was our last Rock the Plaza event, which was held last weekend on February 8th at the Ocean Palm Plaza. This event was by far the most engaging Rock the Plaza event that we had had yet, and I do attribute that to the weather. We had amazing weather. It was very beautiful, and also we had great participation from the local businesses within that plaza. We estimate that there were approximately 250 patrons at that event throughout the 4 hours. We had 6 of the plaza businesses exhibit in the designated area that we set up in the parking lot, and we also had 2 that displayed out front, in front of their storefronts. From the surveys that we conducted, 38% said that they had never visited the plaza, so that was great. And then 85% also stated that they planned on visiting a restaurant within the plaza either during or after the event. Any questions? Yes, sir.
My question is that taking them to the plaza, is this more work or less work instead of having it in one place, or is the workload about the same?
There's definitely a lot more moving parts. We have more of a focus on business development with these events, so we're working directly with those plaza businesses to promote them, see exactly what they would like to showcase. So it's more work, but I think it's definitely beneficial, like, for us to do it this way.
But it's beneficial, like you said, and you're getting more people like out, you know, so it's not like we're just wasting money now. Like Vice Chair said, we're showcasing businesses, you know,
Right,
that's the main
exactly.
thing we're doing, because a lot of people don't know where certain businesses are in the city of Boynton, so.
Right, and one of the things that we do here and that we've consistently been hearing is, I never knew that this plaza was here, or I never knew that these businesses were in the plaza, so it's great exposure for the businesses.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Any discussion on the informational only? Seeing none, moving to public comments. Individual speakers will have 3 minutes to speak about items not on the agenda. Please state your name and address for the record. Seeing no one coming up, we're closing public comments. And I do remind everyone to please silence or turn off your phones. I guess item number 10, CRA projects in progress. Microphone.
Sorry. Good evening, Board Chair and Board members. This is the recap of the progress as of February 1st this month. As you know, most of the rough grading has been completed to date. There's also plans for all the hauling of the excess fill to be completed last week. There are several debris items that needs to be done as well. The pavilion was delivered last week, and
That's update on Sarah Sims' part?
yes. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, we was on marketing,
Oh, I'm sorry.
Did mine
Oh,
change?
Mark, I'm so sorry. Sorry.
I was wondering why we was hauling dirt, from, I was like saying, okay, mark it.
Really, the item that the this is what we did this month.
The two new businesses that, we receive information on, will that fall under marketing and business development campaign?
That is going to be under item B, which will be the economic development.
I'm helping y'all get ahead. Okay, go
I
ahead.
mean, it's okay, it could be combined actually, if you don't need an extra item. For this year, we still have a balance of about 500,000 left for the balance of the fiscal year. There are 4 awards. There are now
Mike, are you talking into the microphone? Thank you.
Now,
they did not necessarily, or they didn't get grant funding from the CRA, but they are new businesses within the CRA district that have opened and received their licensing from the city.
Now we're moving on to Sarah Sims. No worries.
Again, I'm sorry.
is
So
anybody
the
using
item-
that mic down there? Better move on it.
You want to get the other one, I guess, Twee?
Well,
Oh.
okay, we'll share.
Okay.
So, as stated before, this is the construction update for Sarah Sims Park. Again, the pavilion has been delivered last week, and the restroom, also, the purchase order has been issued, and they're anticipating construction start late February, early March. It'll take 8 weeks from the date from the permitted date issuance to complete. And the pavilion are also expected at 8 weeks to be completed. And assembly is starting this week. Other items, there are other bids that have been awarded, as well as the drainage has been 100% complete. Site screening is being bidded out. Should be expected by the beginning of next month. And again, the items to be bidded on will be the decorative fencing. I believe Mr. Dunmire is not here. However, if there's any other questions, there are some photos showing the status of the construction site. And if there are any questions, I'll be here for answers.
But as of this afternoon, that site looks better because it's totally different what you're showing us. 'Cause
Yes,
okay.
it was a rainy day, but a lot of the mounds of dirt has been cleared.
They're gone, that's what I'm saying.
And it's expected to be done, so.
When is the completion date expected to be?
According to our city engineer, Mr. Dunmire, May, but we're hoping.
May of this year?
May of this year.
All right, moving on to the Ocean Breeze East project update.
Yes, Board, the item before you is a project update on the Ocean Breeze East multi-family affordable apartment complex. The project is currently in review by the city and their site plan application. They have had submittal of their second round of comments that have been submitted as of the 4th of February. And we'll have a site plan here for you that depicts on the left side Seacrest Boulevard. The north would be 7th, and then on the right-hand side of the screen is northeast First Street. Just to give you an idea, it is almost dead on to what you approved with the adjustments that have been made now per code and per other elements of review according to the land development regulations. But essentially, the overall site plan and configuration of the project is what was submitted to you when they were awarded the project. This is moving as quickly as the development team of Centennial Management can push it and the city staff can review it. Right now, in the agenda cover, the schedule is that on February 26th, in a couple weeks, it's a tentative date for the Planning and Development Board to review the site plan and provide comments, and then it would go before the City Commission at their March 19th meeting for formal site plan approval, and that will keep the development process under the 9% low-income housing tax credit funding program on track with their underwriting guidelines and the criteria that they've been given as a development team. So things are moving along very well.
Do you have the final number of how many units are going to be there?
123.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
And I guess Centennial, because they got the 9% tax credit, they're not asking for any TIF?
No, they're not asking for any TIF. We have obligated, they paid for the land, $800,000, as you know, and we have obligated ourselves in the application for the 9% for the $567,500 to be combined with the overall funding. So we met our contribution match.
Okay.
That's the only thing. No annual TIF, though.
Next item.
Thank you.
Is moving on to the consent agenda. Any items wish to be pulled? Seeing none, may I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor state so by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Moving on to old business. Item 14.
Excuse me, do we have any items under there to pull? I'm just saying it for consent agenda. It's just
There's the financial reporting, and that's it.
going on the old business.
Yeah, now we're on to old business.
Okay, I don't have that on there.
And so these are audited financial statements, and I guess this Vicky's here to see how we did.
Good evening, Board Chair, Board members. Vicki Hill, the Finance Director. We did very well this year. We got another clear audit. This is our 10th year in a row. Along with the finance team, we have Jabbar Jenkins. She is our accounting finance manager, and she does a lovely job there at the CRA. So we want to thank her. And if you have any questions, we have Richie Tanduck. He's from Sanson Klein, Giacomino, Tanduck, and Gamara here. If you have any questions about the audited financials.
Yes, Commissioner McRae.
Thank you. It's board member. We at this
Yes,
now.
thank you.
Anyway, it might not be a question, but I wanted to know, like, even with the city finances, at the end of the audit, I want to know how much funds that we have like to carry forward. What was that amount?
We had no unassigned afterward, but we did do a cash analysis that we're going to bring to the board next year, and next month, and it's about $800,000.
That's what I needed to hear. I heard it today. Thank you. I'm good with the audit.
Thank you. Any other comments from the board? Yes, Vice Chair.
I just want to say bravo, Vicki. You took over, and we knew that you were filling some big shoes, and you've kept it going. You're keeping our streak alive, so keep it up. Good job.
shoes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Vicki.
Moving on to the MLK Junior Boulevard project update. Michael?
Yes, Board, the selection on January 8th of Centennial Management Corp. as the project developer for the proposed Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard RFQ project. Staff met with the Centennial's development team on January 23rd. We had almost a 2.5-hour meeting with them at the CRA office. It was extremely productive, from a review of their proposal, pulling out some of the extra details of the proposal, and filtering through. At this first meeting, you've given us 90 days to work with the developer to bring back to you a purchase and development agreement that provides some of the terms and directions and what you expect to be done and not done with regard to this project, timing, et cetera. At this stage, within that kind of first 30 days, one of the things that we need to bring back to you as a board to keep us on pace to put some of these terms into an actual document is a review of the funding options, the 3 funding options that were provided to you by Centennial, and those options are under attachment 2, and we'll pull them up for you on the screen. And if I'm not sure if anyone from Centennial is here yet, but Paul, if you want to come up just in case, and then from the developer's perspective, certainly you can either do it or you can chime in whenever you feel.
Good evening, Paul Boynton. Nice to be here again. I'm here mostly to answer questions, really.
So what we wanted to go over with you is the option 1, option 2, and option 3. And with those options, there is a different funding source, and there is a different product that is built in a different time frame, in a different application for funding process. So the first option that they gave to you was to build, they're consistent with the 124 units and the mixed-use project that was submitted, and we can pull that project design back up. But essentially, if the project is the same and the funding source is all we're speaking of this evening, you have private land acquisition that has to take place. You're looking at a CRA grant request of $1,200,000, which is in our budget and specifically identified to help this particular project. They are requesting, under this scenario, that the CRA commit to an annual contribution of our tax increment revenue of around $875,000 for 15 years, which works out to just about $14 million. The balance of the funds on the $20+ million project would be coming from, what are the other sources besides the tax increment that you'd use on option 1, Paul?
That would be all non-competitive, so it would be basically automatic funding, would be the tax-exempt bond funding through the Housing Finance Authority, plus the 4% tax credits from Florida Housing Finance Corporation. And again, that is non-competitive. You basically submit and you get it.
So under that scenario, obviously there is, in your experience, not an application to the state or any other competitive process that would delay the continuation of a funding application and acquisition of that funding. Then under option 2 is the 9% low-income housing tax credit avenue to pursue, if that's something the board wanted to do, where we still end up with 124 units of affordable multifamily residential and the commercial. There is still the private land acquisition. In this scenario, as you remember from previous application, the tax credit program allows for and accounts for in their funding that land has to be acquired by the developer. They work that in. It's not something that they expect a participant like us to give for free, because a lot of the applicants that apply for that tax credit program are developers that purchase private land, so there's not this ability by an entity to just give it to them. So it would carry with it some land acquisition line item. They're still looking for the assistance of us and our $1,200,000 that's in our budget. It would require no tax increment revenue for any number of years. That, however, as you know, is a competitive lottery-style application process. Applications are due in December, and they're fabulous when you're awarded them because there's essentially no real money out of pocket from the agency, and the developer has all the funding they need to do the project. But there is an application cycle that could result in an award. It might not result in an award. And then the third option is a combination of the sale and the tax increment revenue. And the sale, can you describe or explain to them, Paul, the sale aspect of this option?
Well, the first thing I'd like to mention about
Excuse
this...
me, before you begin, I want to know if the board wants to have any comments first, because this isn't the first time we've had these three options come to us before. You want to hear all three of them? Okay.
One thing that separates the sale from the other two is because of proximity to Ocean Breeze East, the sale would only allow for elderly at this point. It could not be family. The other two could be family. And what I've gathered so far is that you're more interested in family, which means everybody, including elderly, as opposed to a program that is restricted only to the elderly. So I want you to keep that in mind when it comes to the option number 3. Option number 2, the sale, the 9% tax credit, that would be exactly the same as the program we did for Ocean Breeze East, so it funds everything on its own, and everybody's happy if we can do that. The sale loan, if you were to wish to proceed with that, knowing that it's elderly, that is not as rich of a funding source from Florida Housing, so it would require some TIF contribution to make it work. I would like to remind you that we were instructed to cut way back on our funding alternatives. We had initially submitted about 30 of them, I think, and those are still available to you. For instance, when you go back to number 1, the 124 units, that is assuming that we are acquiring some private land, which is why the TIF amount is as big as it is. It would certainly still be an option if the CRA so prefers to go with fewer units and not acquire as much land and spend a lot less TIF money. So we still have a few different opportunities available to us beyond what you're looking at on the screen.
Board Member Katz.
Yeah, just from our experience the last go-round, personally, I'd be in favor of, if it was agreeable and it's what you guys were interested in doing, was 2 rounds maximum of going after the 9%, and then if after 2 rounds, no success, move on to some version of the TIF funding, because like you said, I'm personally not interested in restricting the occupants to only seniors. I'd rather have it be seniors and anybody else who wants to move in the area, but I think giving you 2 shots at the 9% and then moving on to local funding would be my preferred avenue.
My comments are is that I think this is a little bit premature to deal with the financing aspect of it, because I'd like to have a public meeting to really determine what's going here first. When we did the request for qualification, we had we chose Centennial because of their ability to build a project, not necessarily build that project. And so I think we need to really discuss what exactly we want to see there on Wells Land, on Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard, rather than, start with, just getting 124 units. I think we need to really figure out exactly what we want going there before we move, because that's what the whole deal was from last year at this time. We said we wanted to figure out what was going there before we build something, and now that we have someone to help build it, I don't think that building the first thing that we see is the best option, because I know with Town Square, we went through multiple iterations of the design, And now this isn't 16 acres. I don't think it's going to take as long, but we still have 8 acres, about half the size. And we do have different building options with the zoning being mixed use low, or mixed use 2. And so that's kind of where I'd like to see, is that I'd like to, step back and, because we have, like they said, 30 different options for financing. There's no reason that we have to pick one financing option when the project that is going to get, because, unless everyone on this board thinks that that's the best project, then that's, then we can move forward with the financing. But I'm not in the essence that this is the best project for that, with what, we have to offer with our CRA land, the funding that we already have in there, and tax incremental funding, and we are able to really determine what goes there with the developer. And so that's my comment, is that I'd like to, have all 30 options available and really have a charrette with the public, because as you can see, we don't have the huge audience like we did last time. And I think we need to really, because after Centennial 1, it's a new game where we can attend those meetings, because there's no cone of silence. Yes, Vice Chair.
All right, so I think there's a way to kind of get both yours and Board Member Katz's desires accomplished. I think it is still the best route for us to go after the 9% tax credits. I see no harm in doing that, especially since we've had a successful project with Ocean Breeze East coming. We see that Centennial knows what they're doing. They have the experience. I would like to trust them to be able to go through that process again and hopefully garner us another project where we really only have to put up $500,000+ to build out the project. So I would be in agreement with what Board Member Katz mentioned. And being that the timeline for the application isn't until later this year, that gives us a few months to do the charrettes and some of the things that you're proposing, Mayor, and come up with a project that perhaps we can get more community input and more insight from the residents before we fully say, let's build this. So I think we have a way to kind of get both of your desires from what both of you stated possible today.
Yes. Board Member McCray?
Thank you. I'm going with the 9% tax credits, but my comment is when we go out for the charrettes with the community, and this is like to the developer, I'm just saying, you already done put the name out there talking about Wells Landing, okay? Let them know that this is not something that we want to call Wells Landing, because one individual is under the impression that this is the name of your project. Let the community name that project, sir. I'm just saying, because they're not agreeing with Wells Landing. I'm just saying, because I'm hearing it, but, just that this is just a name, but this is not the final name. Because the comments in the community, sir, is that, this one individual said, oh, this is Wells Landing, named after my grandfather. They don't want that in District 2. Now, I'm just saying, just say MLK, that you call it anything you want to, but I'm just saying, what you keep advertising, Wells Landing, this individual is getting the wrong information, like, this is what it's going to be called. Let them know you have not chosen a name, please. I'm just saying, so we can keep that confusion.
Does anyone else want to speak on the board before I open it up to public comments? Seeing none. Do you mind if we have open up to public comments behind you?
Nope, not at all.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Linda Cross, 625 Casa Loma Boulevard, Unit 601, Boynton Beach. First off, it would have been, I think, really nice if the CRA board had an opportunity to look at this ahead of it coming to the CRA board, because we might have been able to help a little bit with some of the input prior to it coming to the CRA board. But in terms of, and thank you, Board Member McCray, for saying that, because I think naming it's a little bit premature since we're not even really sure what it's going to be. And I also think Board Member Grant, that is absolutely right. You might have selected the developer, but maybe this isn't exactly all that we want it to be. I can tell you from having a lot of public comment prior to this at the CRA board and at the CRA board prior to today, having so much residential and so little commercial was not what was envisioned for this redevelopment of MLK Boulevard. I think it really was supposed to be a lot more commercial, mixed use, yes, some residential included, but a lot more to bring more business life back to the MLK Boulevard. So that is something I think the CRAB board would have liked to have seen from the proposal. 5,000 square feet of some retail is not exactly what we were expecting to see. So I think it's a good idea to, I'm not sure you need a whole lot more input from the public, but I think that's great to continue to do that since you have some time. But I do think that what you might want to consider is maybe Centennial could work with another developer that could work with the commercial side of it. So you have some residential commercial developers working together to kind of fit the mixed use theme a little bit more with a bigger weight to the commercial side. Thank you.
Hi, Susan Oyer, 140 Southeast 27th Way. I think you're very spot on, Board Member McCray, about wanting to have lots of public input. I think that's the right way to go. I worry that we're giving all this land and money away, and I don't think that's right. I realize part of this is the purpose of CRA, but at the same time, I think we should be looking at all the other projects we could be doing if we weren't giving away, the house with every single thing we do. So please look at the money closely and do not waste my money or anyone else's. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else for public comments? Seeing none. And so,
Public comment.
we got one more thing.
My name is Willie Akins. I'm the president of the Heart of Boynton Neighborhood Association. My address is 726 Northeast 1st Street, Boynton Beach, Florida. I agree with Commissioner McCray and the young lady that spoke before. We do have to bring back and get from the community exactly what we need, because the thing is, we look at the past events that we have done things, and we have wasted a lot of space, a lot of time, and a lot of money. So we need to be on top of things now when we're talking about the spacing, and we need to know exactly what cost of names that they went through when they picked the Wells Landing. Other people have had other ideas and had more stakeholders in the city of Boynton Beach, and we're not knocking the Wells Landing. We're just saying that there should be other options, and other people should have the opportunity to do so. So I thank Mr. McCray. I thank the young lady that spoke before. We do need to look and see exactly what we're going to do with our money and our times, because it's very important, because this is not just right now. It's going to last 3 to 5 years, and we need to be a little bit more cautious to what we're doing. Thank you.
But, to speaking about funding and moving on, I'd like to see the CRA partner with Centennial to buy up any of those lands. I know that because we took a while to choose them, they need to work on the contracts for some of the space available. And I'd like with the board's permission, give Michael the authority to work with Centennial to, if they're trying to say, we want out of that 1.2 million that is already there, to help buy the land, that we can do that already, because as you see, if they had 1.375 is that what they were putting in, or is that what
That was the anticipated acquisition of the private land that was under contract at the beginning of the process, which would exclude the Bell's Market property.
Yeah, and so that's where I'm at, is that let's try the best to secure the property that we can. And then we can, as we mentioned, have that discussion with the public regarding, what is it going to be called? Do we want to see a live workspace? Do we want to see, retail on the first floor with residential on top? With the mixed-use zoning, we have a lot of different options that have not been done before, and I feel that, exploring those options is prudent before we make a decision. Yes, Vice Chair.
I just want to emphasize on something that Ms. Cross said recently in terms of the potential of partnering, having Centennial partner with a retail developer. I know Centennial is more experienced on the residential end of things, and I've seen that the mistake that happens in the examples of like Costa Costa and things like that, where you have a residential developer that's given leeway to create retail portions, but then you have those retail portions that are left vacant for months and years on end, perhaps because of just the inexperience or the inability to really market those spaces. So I would not want to repeat history. I would also want to have, again, somebody who's very proficient in that sense to partner up with Centennial to make sure that what retail we do include is really, again, something that the community would want to have there. They would be able to, again, have a sense of ownership and a sense of pride, because I think at the end of the day, that's what this whole project is about. So any opportunity that we have to really do this the first time around the right way is I think, something that's worth looking into. So that would be my kind of asterisk there to add to this process, that we perhaps look into adding a retail developer partner on this, so that we can really make sure that we bring in exactly what the community is looking for.
Board Member Katz.
Yeah, I'm open to anything and everything that was said. I think that it needs to be made clear, though, that by increasing the commercial, you're going to increase the cost of the project to the CRA if we don't get those grants, based on what I've been told. Also, just in general, I think that we have this broader plan, this idea that this isn't just a project, it's a whole street. It's going to run from the intersection of Seacrest down. So, like I said, I'm open to more commercial, but at the same time, I'm cognizant that if we acquired adjacent properties not currently included in this project, they could be the commercial. So I'm thinking of it from a wider perspective than just this isn't the MLK project. This is the first step in the MLK project to me. So I want to make sure that we're not treating this as the be-all, end-all of MLK. It's one piece of what might hopefully become an entire avenue of activity. So keep that in mind, that if it ever comes to fruition that that's the case, every single building won't be commercial, residential. It might be mixed use, and then the next building might be all residential, the next building might be all commercial. So just some broader perspective about the global plan here versus the singular plan. But again, I'm open to anything.
Yes, Board Member Craig.
I think I'm going to agree with Board Member Katz. I'm just saying, I don't want anything to hamper the project as it's going now. I'm just saying whatever we can work out and bring back. But, like he said, that there's other lots and property that could go into like retail. I'm just saying this is just the first bite at the apple, and I think we should keep on biting.
Yes, Board Member Katz.
And just one more point, going back to the first time around that we kind of discussed the first version of this project prior to Centennial, there was significant pushback about building commercial without some very specific intent, like, these are the tenants we want in there, these are the businesses we want in there. If we do move in a direction where we add commercial, it will be shells. I know there was a lot of disparagement of shells the past time we talked about this, but we can build spaces tailored to certain size businesses, small, medium, large, et cetera. But the same caution I gave the last time we talked about this is just that if we try to plant specific businesses in there, or we reject the concept of building commercial space, and once you build it, they will come, that it might bog us down. So again, I'm open-minded about all this, and hopefully that the community is as well, versus pitching very specific commercial projects that might not be viable given the infancy of this project. So, but again, I'm open to everything.
Vice Chair.
I think all I want to add to that is simply just the fact that, we of course are cognizant of the balance that there has to be between residential and commercial. Without residential, you cannot support the viability of the commercial. So that's exactly what I think, Board Chair, or Board Member Katz, you're saying, and I'm in definite agreement with that. We need to make sure that whatever commercial we are bringing in, we create the viability by having adequate if not substantial enough residential to support it and make sure that it is there for the long term and not just a fluke that fails because it doesn't have enough bodies frequenting it.
And the part that I'd like to make the board aware is that, you know, because this is the taxpayers' funding and that we are giving this money, you know, it doesn't mean that the CRA doesn't have the ownership aspect of it. So if the developer says, we don't even want to build commercial, and it leaves it up to the CRA to do that, that's something that we may want to look into, because that way we can control what exactly goes in there and what kind of businesses. So as the board has mentioned, we're open to all ideas right now, but I just want to make sure that we're cognizant that, you know, just because the CRA is given, you know, a couple acres of land and millions of dollars doesn't mean that we don't have any teeth to see what goes in there. We don't have any ownership aspect of it. And so that's one I just want to make sure, because I know, you know, some of the other projects in past CRAs, we have gone the short end of the stick for giving the tax incremental funding and not really getting, you know, the residential is full, but we don't necessarily have the commercial space activated.
Right.
Or the control to make it happen.
Yes, Board Member Kelly.
I'm in agreement with basically everything that everyone is saying. Is there a decision we need to make tonight? Is this before us just to give us an update, or do we need to make?
I think I have, and the developer have enough comments to lead us in a financial choice from a component of an agreement avenue. We know that there was intended to be a community input segment of this project. I'm not sure that I shouldn't have started over, because in the beginning with their submission, I feel like their intent to build commercial and how it was going to look by going right into the financial structure, I wouldn't want the public or the board to forget that they had incorporated the mixed use aspect that you would like to see in here. So just from those that may not have seen their presentation, they had intended to hit all of the components that you've mentioned you wanted, whether they're exactly laid out correct the way the community might or the board may in the end. I think both parties are absolutely on the same page and want the same outcome. So we will take this information and continue our meetings and our negotiation with the developer, and continue to bring you back any updates that we feel are necessary for guidance.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Moving on to item 14C, discussion and consideration of the CRA's Cottage District Infill Housing Project conceptual development terms.
Board, we have, as instructed and directed by the CRA board after the selection of Neighborhood Renaissance Incorporated as the second developer of three to begin negotiations with for the project is owned by the property owned by the CRA, known as the Cottage District Infill Housing Project site at the kind of the block of North Seacrest Boulevard, Northeast 4th Avenue, Northeast 1st Street, and Northeast 5th Avenue. We have been working with the development team of NRI, regularly. A lot of time and energy has gone in by both parties. We have had two successful meetings with the city Department of Development staff and getting guidance in their land development regulation expectation, garbage pickup, sewage and infrastructure requirements, down to where fiber optic lines are existing and reclaimed water lines. The task that you gave us was to sit with them, work on these two site plans that they proposed, which is for somewhere between 30 and 34 single-family, non-rental housing for affordable and workforce families, to design it with a cottage or a Floridian architectural style, not to incorporate a townhouse or multi, like even a very nice villa duplex style, but all kind of single family, independently owned. We explored in these site plans front load, which means your driveway is at the front door in the street, and rear load, which is a style that some might be familiar with in an Abacoa or tradition, where your driveway is in the rear of the building and your front door faces the sidewalk. In both of their site plan concepts, we have a little bit of each, because we aren't in a perfectly square sized property. There's no exact way to get everybody into one or the other of those units, as I think everyone would expect in a infill development like this, and in any development, whether it be all the way up and down the coast and anywhere in the United States. Generally speaking, there is a variety of housing, variety of style, floor plan, whether that be 3-4 units of choice, and different driveway locations and what have you. So one of the things that we wanted you to be aware of as a board as we work with the developer, because we are trying to hammer out as much of these details for an agreement, that's the ultimate goal, is to enter into agreement or decide not to enter into agreement. We, in our meetings with the city staff, as a development project, they, for the majority of support from planning staff, feel that your prescribed RFP request and what you wanted was a publicly accessed pocket park or green space that was somewhat external to the site, meaning you actually were very specific even in the northeast corner of the site, so that it could be visited and accessed by neighboring residents, and not restricted by being in, let's say, the center of a gated community. This site plan A, or type A site plan, is designed to accommodate that request, and you can see in the upper right-hand corner is this kind of park space that is located there. We're bringing this to your attention because in the second site plan, you have a more centralized and located green space, and Bonnie can switch to that one here you see now. So the green space that you envisioned is now centralized into the site development, and access points for the community around it are kind of given in and around the future housing that's developed here. I think that this is inherently going to cause many different issues of ownership and homeowner association issues, and would certainly, as a staff, I think Tui and I are absolutely in agreement, as is the developer, that from a maintenance and a safety and security and a cost for the affordable units that we're building and the owners, that having a kind of separated green space that the city could take over, we might build it as a project and provide that to the city, and then have some other type of space internal that is only accessible to the residents who are paying for that site, and the city isn't mowing and taking care of, is a really good compromise for the both. But we're ahead of the game on that, but I wanted you to know that this is an obstacle, if you will, or a condition that we'll have to resolve as a development partnership. Moving on to the funding breakdown, on your cover, I had made a mathematical error on the agenda cover, in that the bullet developer requested CRA contribution, the funding of cash, if you will, not the land value, but the cash is off by about $150,000 in my formula. It's $2,027,000, but the correct number is reflected in your spreadsheet, and it's also reflected in the pro forma spreadsheet that is on the screen now, which you can see in the lower left-hand corner. You see a yellow box that has $150,798. So that has been corrected. So both the developer and CRA staff have looked at this, believe it or not, simplified spreadsheet. There are multiple tabs that are not included in your discussion this evening that all correspond to some formula that you see. But the first column is geared to provide you information on the construction and the cost of the home itself. the 34 homes, the design, the engineering of those homes, architectural features, the development costs for neighborhood renaissance and their fees. The second column or second box of numbers you'll see is titled on-site work. And on-site work would be the things that have to be done within the property line boundaries of the site. And these would be everything from the internal infrastructure, lighting, sidewalks, sewer, water, power, the pads themselves, everything within the boundary. And then the third box is titled off-site, and this off-site work is what is expected of the developer and the development team when building this project that are outside of the boundaries of the property line, if you will, that include upgrading or replacement of existing water lines or sewer lines in the right-of-way, sidewalks that don't exist in the right-of-way, or old ones that do that need to be replaced, other types of things outside that we would be responsible for. And those two items, the on-site work and the off-site work, total about $2 million in value just to get the project ready for a house to be built on it. And the final column or the final box kind of totals going across to your overall development cost. You have your developer fee, your hard construction costs, the financial costs, the general development costs, the developer fee on the general development costs, and the overall total of the project with all of the fees and considerations, an estimate, of course, is around $11.5 million, $11.1. And that breaks down for us as the development partner and owner of the property and solicitor of a proposal. That breaks down to a request for the CRA land at $10 or a value of $1,120,000, a cash request or a funding request for the project to be completed of $2,057,000 estimate. Total CRA contribution, cash and land, is about $3,000,001. The homes, after the expense of the on-site work and preparation is done to begin construction of the home, the intent of NRI, and they're here certainly to answer questions and speak in more detail of anything that I've said and that you need, the intent would be to utilize an access line or revolving line of construction credit to build several models, perhaps. If, let's say, it's an $800,000 or $900,000 line or $1 million line, they build several homes with that line, and they begin to sell those models, and then as the house sells, they replenish the line of credit by paying what they've borrowed again. So this is not a scenario where there is funding to build 34 houses waiting to go once the land is ready to go. So it's about a 2.5-year phasing of construction at that pace. And looking at the numbers, and certainly our, NRI can speak to it, the cash investment and land investment is principally made by the CRA at this point. So our development partnership is a funding and a land cost partnership, and the developer that we are engaging partnership with is now going to be building the end product, selling the product, and there are many ways that we can address issues on how do we get a little money back, is the developer fee too high? These are the kinds of things that we're looking to the board for, because we're at a point now where, can we afford it? Do you like what you see? We're not worried about where the trees are and where the front doors are. We're worried about things like the overall cost, the things that have to be done, the timing, the funding, and is the development team ready, and are you ready to become partners in an agreement that would then come back to you with a more detail that you would then analyze and make sure we've covered all of your desires and securing of funding and what have you. But here's where we are, and we're looking for some guidance and answering any questions in great detail that we can. This is a big project, and it's an important one. There's no timetable of losing funding or applications or anything like that, so there is no urgency that's outside of the room, if that's the way to say it.
Board Member McCray.
Thank you. Michael, you and I, we had the discussion today. I'm just saying, okay, we got the Town Square project already on that we already paying so much, every year. Okay, you and I, we talked today about this infrastructure. I'm just saying, bringing MLK, the project on MLK Boulevard. We got Ocean Breeze, and now we got the Cottage District. And I'm just saying, perhaps we need to look at the infrastructure. That means that line that runs, that we could connect all of these projects instead of, trying to piecemeal them together after they start coming online. I'm just saying, there's no need to do an Ocean Breeze and then the sewer line and all this is not ready to go, or doing MLK and they can't connect. I'm just saying, now we're talking about the Cottage District. I take that we need to run that line first, and then we could start looking at what we need to do so that we could accommodate everything that we're bringing online now, because money is tight. There's no need to keep kidding ourselves, and we keep spending, and nothing is coming in. We're going to have a zero balance, and nobody's going to be able to do anything. That's my, right now, I don't think that we can afford it right now.
Board Member Kelly.
Yeah, I kind of agree with the infrastructure. I think that came up after they had made a decision to move forward. And I feel like that needs to be our priority, is to get the sewer lines and the water lines and all the things that are going to supply utilities to all these new properties that we're doing in advance of, kind of moving forward with any builds, especially with Town Square being 4 blocks away. It may be that, in a year or two, that this property and this project will be a little bit more appealing than it is right now, once all the utilities and the infrastructure is put in and the repairs are made and it's up to 2019 standards. So that's where I am on that.
My input is that, the situation is that if we wait for 3 years or 4 years, we don't know what's going to happen with the economic cycle. And so maybe things are a lot more expensive, maybe things are a lot less expensive. So I am in favor of the sense is that are these houses planning on using the district energy plant versus using their own HVAC system? Or are we just planning to use, I believe they have the gray water, the reused water available for basically their yards, because it's right on Seacrest. Do we want to have that aspect so that the center area and the park does have that water available? My final input is that I'd like to have this move more sooner than later, because like Michael said, is that it's going to be 3 or 4 houses at a time. So, we're not going to go very fast in this whole project. My questions is that who exactly is selling the houses? Is it going to be the CRA, or is it going to be Neighborhood Renaissance that takes in the applications?
Neighborhood Renaissance, to answer that question. That would be a role that they would be playing.
And so, okay. And then, are they also setting up the HOA?
Yes.
And, the situation that I have is that, well, what are we putting in, with them so that the HOA is set up the way that the CRA would want it to be set up?
Certainly.
And then the only design aspect is that I'd like to join Site Plan A and Site Plan B. And so instead of having the dead end where the easement is that it would continue north from 4th to 5th Avenue and have the driveways being east to west, the houses being east to west of that area. So it will be so that there'll be three or four houses looking at the parking lot, because if that continues, there used to be a driveway where that easement is. And so unless we cut that easement off, there would be, with the type A, people could just drive through Mrs. Oyer's land there, and that's not something that I'd like to see. So those are my comments. Vice Chair?
Okay. Thank you, Mayor, for your comments. I'm in agreement with most of it. What I just simply want to add to what's been said is that, I think time is also of the essence. When you look at some of the statistics here in Boynton Beach and further out in Palm Beach County, median sale price of homes in Boynton Beach is $275,000. Median rent prices is $1,950. We've been building a lot of rental units here in Boynton Beach with Town Square, 500 Ocean, One Boynton, Riverwalk, Ocean One that's slated to come, and also with MLK. We're building a lot of rental, but we have very few options for ownership, and I harp on this all the time. I think a community, again, maintains its character and maintains its pride, and something that somebody can say, this is mine, and I own this. There's something to that aspect. So, if we're going to talk about infrastructure, we have the Assistant City Manager here. He can ask us, he can answer certain questions for us in terms of the viability and the feasibility in terms of infrastructure. But I would say whatever we need to do to make sure that we can move this project forward in a reasonable amount of time, to make sure that we maintain those assets on the market while the opportunities are here, while the housing, market is stable, and, we're not in a free fall like we were back in '08 and all those years. I would want to take advantage of that. So whatever infrastructure we need to put in place, I would want to work along with the city to do that, and I would want to move this project forward because, we don't have very many opportunities for home ownership, especially new home ownership products on the market here in Boynton Beach. So if we have the ability to do this, I see no reason in trying to stall it or push it back. We've done our part in bringing in projects that are sustaining us here in the CRA. Yes, we are a little extended, but I think, again, all that really lends itself to saying that we need to still keep doing the job that we are slated to do here, which is to remove slum and blight. And if we have the opportunity to do that, I see no reason why we should try to stall or push that down the road.
Is the board interested in hearing at this point in your discussion some funding numbers that are currently existing to help you in this, or would you like to wait until you've finished?
Board Member McCray.
Thank you. Michael, you're the CRA director, and we had this discussion today, and I don't want us to, right now, we need to be realistic. We don't have that much money to be pushing around and saying we could do this and do that and get out there in the middle of the water and find out, the motor don't work anymore. And I'm just saying, if these figures that you gave us are not realistic and we need to do the infrastructure first, I'm just saying, because Town Square is already coming on, and I'm just saying with Town Square coming on, who knows what might happen to the cottage district. I'm just saying, they might come over and say, well, I want to upscale and do da-da-da-da. But I'm just saying infrastructure is what we need to get in place prior to going forward. And this is what I'm saying is that I don't want to get out there and be strapped for cash, and, because we don't have that much money to play around with. I'm just saying once we start looking at these bottom lines. And there's no urgency really to go and do cottage district. I'm just saying, cottage district been talked about, ever since almost like I was a kid almost. I'm just saying, although it was there, but I'm just saying we don't need to be rushed in this. I'm just saying home ownership is nice, but we got a lot on our plate, and I'm just saying, we need to be walking kind of light right now.
So I guess, what were you looking, with the direction that the board has told you, it's a little bit mixed.
Yes, sir. There are a few more things that we as staff and I think as a development partnership can look into and discuss with the city, maybe on the infrastructure and the other locations that I've shared with all of you and with the development team of NRI as it relates to Boynton Beach Boulevard and MLK and Ocean Breeze East. All of these projects are on the same northeast First Street. We've got 3 or 4 good projects, and we've got MLK at the top of it, right? So everything is connected. It is not an entire, at this point, it is not an entire thoroughfare reconstruction project. We're looking at 3 different projects, possibly 4, with segments of the underground utility being replaced. Certainly, we can't just stop here and then start again there underground, even with the technology that would really kind of blow your mind, as it's going to blow the pipe and lay new pipe and not have to undo the ground. And we've got different size roadways. But all that aside, that's something that we can bring back to you in a legitimate cost, and how do you phase that? I think the consensus we were looking for this evening is, are you willing to embrace the need and the acceptance of the funding, whether that be over the next 2 fiscal years? So if you've got $1.6 million now set aside for the MLK corridor project, what other funding and how much of that funding of other items and other areas of budget do you want to identify for the Cottage District, and whether or not those can occur simultaneously or not? And I can give you a number or 2 at this moment, but is that a simultaneous analysis? No, I haven't done that for you. Nor has Centennial sat in and looked at our funding, and Neighborhood Renaissance looked at the funding we're going to use for the MLK project. But the consensus is, if you like what you see and you're not appalled by I think you either are kind of want to keep going forward, or, geez, we're not going to go anywhere from here. I think if that's as simple as we can continue forward or stop.
Board Member McCray.
Thank you. Since we have some of the public, chair wanting to speak, I'm just saying maybe they might be got some input that could help jar our memory or jar something. I'm just saying, because, this is a project. I'm just saying we got more spokes than we got wheels right now. And I'm just saying, maybe they could give us some input, see what's going on. I'd like to hear from the public.
All right. Thank you, Board Member Kelly.
I had some questions about the funding. Because it looks like, unlike other projects where we're maybe selling land and we're recouping some money, on this project it looks like it's all coming from us and the CRA is not recouping any of that. And I'd like to see maybe some ways that we can, recoup, even if that's after the houses have sold. But I feel like we're giving a lot away and we're not getting anything back. And so we're like gifting it to. So I'd like to see some options where we're actually recouping some of the CRA's money back so that we can continue to do all the great projects that the city is doing, that the CRA is doing.
All right. So, yes, open up to public comments.
Thank you, Chair. Linda Cross, 625 Casaloma Boulevard, Unit 601, Boynton Beach. I don't want to sound like a broken record, but again, you could have brought this to the CRAB board for a little bit of review prior to coming to the CRA board. There's 7 board members on the CRAB board, and we would have been more than happy to review this and thoughtfully gone through the budget and looked at the projects that we have and brought back some recommendations for the CRA board. It is the purpose of the CRAB board to do that with our community non-elected officials on the CRAB board. But having looked at this a little bit before coming to this meeting, and I do agree with the chair that you wait 2.5, 3 years, it'll be a $15 or $16 million project. I find it hard to believe that the city of Boynton Beach doesn't have infrastructure for 30 houses. That kind of cracks me up when I hear that. I also find it hard to believe that with all of the rental properties that we are building in Boynton Beach, that we can't find the ability to build 30 to 34 houses for some single-family home ownership in this city. The stability of a city is typically founded on single-family home ownership. We've got to look for some property to do that. This, and Board Member McCray, you're absolutely right. We've been talking about this district for maybe not as long as when you were in high school, but certainly for several years. Anyway, we've been talking about this project and been looking for somebody to come to us with some plans. And this, maybe it still needs some working around, but I would suggest if you don't want to go diving right in on it today, that you might refer it to the CRAB board to look at it and work a little bit with CRA executive director and the staff. But I don't think, and certainly there's probably some infrastructure things that need to be worked out. I certainly don't think that the city of Boynton Beach can't hold 34 houses on its utility grid. And I really think waiting 3 years to build 34 houses is probably about as short-sighted as you can possibly get. So that's my input. Thank you.
Chair?
Yes.
Since Chair Cross has volunteered, especially since there's really no time limit on this, is this something that the board would perhaps want to entertain, sending this back and see if the board, the CRAB board could get a little creative and show us how we can make this a little bit more feasible and spend more time on it?
Absolutely. I think it's also in the senses, you know, we are having one charrette for Martin Luther King. It's kind of in the senses this isn't as in-depth, but maybe we want to double up. And because it's, you know, they're 4 blocks away or 5 blocks away from each other.
I'm not sure I understand what you're saying. I'm not sure this is necessarily a charrettes thing. I think it's just more of a,
no,
because we're talking about funding, and that's the issue for some, from
well,
what I'm hearing, correct?
That, yeah, absolutely, and that's kind of where it is that, you know, is there that much of a demand from the public here that we need to have the affordable, the single-family home ownership aspect in that, where you're building new homes here, which I think would be the first time in decades. And so, after just saying it out loud, I don't think that you're right. We don't need to have it on the charrette. But,
just saying, yeah.
But to discuss the different funding mechanisms and dealing with the water utilities, yes, the CRAB board should have a look at it and get a presentation from the city utility so that we can get a better recommendation what to do moving forward. Yeah.
I'm going to agree with what you all just said. It needs to go back to the CRAB board. We established a CRAB board to look at projects before they get to us. And I'm just saying it's a shame to have people on the board and they're not doing what they are willing to do. I'm just saying perhaps they could find some way that we might overlook. And I'm just saying, like, you know, have the city about the infrastructure and all these other things. I'm just saying, you know, give them a shot at it. You know, they might be they don't need to go for a charrette on it. I'm just saying because it's the cottage district, but let them, you know, give their shot at the apple. I'm just saying, I'm in favor of it.
I think we got to have a consensus for that so that the city's utility department can really make a better estimation of what exactly is entailed to put in these 30 single-family homes. But we'll have it open for the remaining public comments.
Hi, Susan Oyer, 140 Southeast 27th Way. In looking at this, what do I want next to my properties? I would have to say type A without a doubt. I like the fact that it has more road options, but as the mayor kindly noticed, there needs to be some kind of physical barrier to keep people running off the road and driving into our buildings. You know, we already had that happen once with somebody driving off Seacrest and running into one of our buildings. I would say that it'd be great possibly having more trees maybe as a barrier, maybe an art piece, maybe making that a cul-de-sac on type A. some kind of physical barrier. I also noticed when looking at it that there's not very many trees along the top of option A, but yet the other three sides have lots of trees, and I found that lacking. Although I definitely think A is the best. Unit C, the one that's closest to the school, there on the west side up at the north, the driveway goes right to the edge of that street. Maybe it would be better to switch that to a type Unit A, where the driveway sits on the other side of the house, and that poor person's not backing out trying to figure out how they're going to get in and out of their driveway without running off the road. So that would just be a thought I saw. I do like the idea of nothing but single-family homes. Mayor Grant, you are completely right on that. Sorry, Board Chair Grant. All the things I see wrong with type B. I see this becoming a speedway alley, if you want to put type B up so people can see. That's just a straight road going through, and I see every ATV in the world going through there. I see everybody speeding through there to get around Seacrest or any kind of problems. As a cut through, and I know we have problems up in Quantum with the cut through, so let's not make another one. I think that's very disjointed, and I think it's going to make an east side, west side kind of divide that will lead to potential problems with the kids down the line. Because if you can find any way to create different groups of kids, gangs, whatever you want to call them, it will happen. And this could easily be that east side, west side kind of thing, as opposed to type A, which looks much more community involvement. I also don't like the fact that there's only one green area, and I think the type A has two green areas, which I think gives a more homey, organic kind of feel to it. And so, if we're going somewhere, let's go with type A, but with addressing those physical barrier features so no one else drives into any of my houses. Thank you very much.
Hi, can I speak? I'm Michael Beaker. I'm Real Estate Development Director for Neighborhood Renaissance. Michael Pecar, P-E-C-A-R. I just want to point out what happened between our initial presentation of a design concept and where we came now. The contribution or the gap, when we first came to the CRA and presented to you, we asked for about $1.4 million to put in the on-site infrastructure. After meeting with the city and Public Works and other agencies at the city, there's about $500,000 of additional off-site work that needs to be done that, you talked about supports other projects up and down the road, including the road. So that's one thing I wanted to point out. These homes will be National Green Building Standard certified, and we'll be using reclaimed water from the city. Then on the two different site plans that are there, the original one, or closest to the concept we presented, was Site Plan A, which incorporated probably 99% of what the plan for this district was, the cottage district. Street parking, porches on the, eyes on the street, porches on the street, a public park on the northeast corner of 0.2 acres. We feel it is more cottage-like, it is more like old historic type neighborhood. Instead of having a bunch of driveways and garages facing the street, you have the front of the house. On 5th Street, the reason why there's a lack of trees or fewer trees is that Plan A, Type A, preserves some street parking there for guests and other residents on that street for their guests as well. So some of the landscaping on the street has been replaced with street parking. Plan B puts all the driveways facing the outside on 4th, 5th, and 1st and eliminates that parking. So I just want to bring those points out that the numbers didn't really swing that much, going from a 6-inch line to a 8-inch line and replacing clay with the new, whatever material they're using now, did add a lot of costs, as well as expanding the widths of the streets that we didn't anticipate.
And then my comment regarding trying to combine them too, so that there is the curved road from Northeast 4th to Northeast 5th Avenue. Is that something that is feasible? So the road that's going from north to south continues going up, and that you have the houses west of it facing that road.
Well, you can also do a cul-de-sac turn.
Mean B?
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
he means keeping the other road too, so that
Yeah.
there's basically
So you-
three ways in and out. Right.
Correct.
Our original plan, type A.
Thank you.
Original type A had a third entrance into the community, and we got some feedback and it made sense. There's too many ways to get in and out of here, as far as ways to cut through the neighborhood. This plan is, you probably just go down 4th, make a left on 1st if you wanted to get to where that was.
I mean, I've lived a block away from here for about 5-6 years, so like I'm pretty familiar with the community, and so yeah, there's all the different ways to head north to south on Seacrest, and then go into First Street to head west on Boynton Beach Boulevard, or taking a left there to head east on Boynton Beach Boulevard. The only reason why I have that continuation is so that with that dead end, unless you put a lot of barriers, you're going to have people driving. I'm afraid people are just going to be using that as a cut through because there's a drive.
I'm sorry. There's other ways to address, I mean.
Yeah, there's a driveway. Yeah, you have to go to the microphone. All right.
You can still rotate the houses the way it's been discussed and have a turn in the development, but there would be additional, I think, site plan discussion as we continue forward. So even tonight's, if the next version creates even more discussion, I think this is good. It's good to have it.
Yeah, I understand
But
the problem.
I don't think it's.
What we've done before is like when you have roads that terminate at a lake, is you put 3 big strong palms there so you can't drive through, rather than a guardrail. It's more attractive.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yes, Board Member Cray.
Thank you. Chair, since this is going back to the CRA board, this is the second time I heard the use of reclaimed water, and I'd like to ask the Assistant City Manager a question about this reclaimed water, so at least Linda Crossan will know when they're discussing this. In regards to this project, Colin, and the reclaimed water, are we ready to hook up, or what will we have to do to be able to hook up? And what will be roughly the cost to do this?
Colin Groff, Assistant City Manager. There is reclaim available for this project. We would want to use it. Reclaim is a little bit different than water and sewer. The reclaim system covers a lot of the cost for hookup. I wish I had the numbers in front of me, but I don't. But there are some minor costs for it, but they're offset by other costs. Utilities are an issue on this. I know somebody said, why can't you serve 34 houses? This is an old, very old area where the infrastructure needs to be replaced. This project wouldn't be responsible for 100% of the replacement. They would only be, our policy is each development stands on its own for what it pays for what it needs to make it work. The utility will look at the overall area and upgrade the utilities for the overall area, and everybody will pay their pro rata share as they come in. So those are the numbers we're going to work through with the CRA. We've had a couple of really good meetings. We just need to work through those numbers to finalize them and figure out what we need to do for not just this project, but for all of the projects that go up. Because you're looking at 3 projects, and of course we look at a 20 to 40 year horizon. We think there's 10 or 12 projects out there that we would plan for. So I think I answered your question.
You know you didn't, but that's close enough. But anyway.
It's affordable.
It's
at least
affordable. Yes, it's affordable.
Right, they can understand. But anyway, the 1 cent sales tax, I'm just throwing this out here. Can any of that be used for this project or any stuff that we're doing?
So we are looking at that. There are some off-site work that we would like to do in this area to improve the area. So the answer is we're going to look we're working with the CRA staff, Michael, very closely to find the best way to fund this project, to have the, I don't want to use the bad word, but the city subsidy for the project as small as possible. I think it's a bad word, but this project needs it.
Right, if y'all can, I'm just one person, but if y'all can get that information and get it to this crab board so that they can bear this all in mind.
And
when
we
they
will.
bring it
We
in.
can do that.
Okay, Mayor, that's just the way I want to go.
Yep, I think that's a great idea to move forward. All right,
We'll need a motion for your assignment to the CRAB board.
So moved.
Second.
all right, all those in favor state so by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, all those opposed? Seeing none, motion passes unanimously. Moving on to 14D. Consideration of purchase and development agreement with Habitat for Humanity of South Palm Beach County for the CRA-owned property located at 110 Northwest 6th Avenue. May I have a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
All right. Did you just second yourself?
Second on, but
Okay.
she was saying at the same time I was, and I just said.
He can have the motion, I'll second.
All right, thank you. Michael, did they have a number for this amount as well?
We paid $10,600, and they're requesting that the CRA provide the lot at $10, which continues to keep the end product at a affordable rate for affordability purposes.
And did they plan on putting the property in their community land trust as part of?
Habitat is here.
Yeah.
I know that we have their, sorry, Jeff.
Yes, good evening, Jeff Fingler with Habitat for Humanity, 2705 Northeast 10th Street in Pompano Beach. Yes, we would put the property in the land trust. We have designed a 3-bedroom, 2-bath home with a garage to fit that lot. We have a similar home at 228 Northwest 6th. It's just down the street about a block or half a block. It's very similar to all the other homes that we've built. You know, we strive to make our homes maintenance-free, hurricane-proof, and we'd just love to get that lot.
Ocean Breeze West is right across the street.
I guess my other question is that are all the liens off the property?
Yes.
Because it was through tax deed. Did we pay the city liens, or what happened with
We own the property. We did not pay any of the liens to the city. They were forgiven.
Okay.
We ended up not having to pay an additional $1,000 in a quiet title pursuit, so that was also a savings for us. And the timing was perfect. We just got that last week, so.
So
very good investment for $10,000 on our part.
So I remember this property. I let the CRA staff know that it was going for tax deed, and so I think it was last year that they put in $5,000, bid up to $100,000. We were very fortunate to buy it at that price of $10,000. Originally, I was hoping to expand the community garden there, and so you're familiar with that community garden there?
Yes.
So what my request is for the $10, it's not, is that the Habitat for Humanity also helps with that community garden with maybe planting new trees and reaching out to the Boynton Beach Garden Club.
We'd certainly be willing to do that, and as a matter of factly, I had a phone call today. One of our vendors has a 15, 16-foot gumbo limbo tree that he'd like to donate to us, and I will certainly flip it to the CRA.
It's actually the city
tomorrow, if that'll work for you guys.
I mean, that's not the issue. Is that I just want to make sure that there's communication. I'm requesting. I'm not demanding.
No, I'm just, it's just a circumstance was I got a call this morning saying
I don't think the CRA has any property for the Gumbo Limbo, so. But I do appreciate that. But absolutely, if you could reach out to the Boynton Beach Garden Club if you need their contact information, I have that. And just so that there's some new funds that goes in there to help out. I was able to give $500 of community support funds because it was left to fallow, and they put in a nice little walkway, and to maybe get a bench there or something in that sense, just to make it a little bit more activated now.
Certainly, we'll be glad to get with the garden club and see what we can do to benefit the park.
Yes. Commissioner Cray.
Thank you, Chair. You know, I know you're saying put a bench there, but,
I'm sorry.
You're saying they could put a bench in the garden. That's what you said, okay?
I did.
Okay, let me piggyback on that. First of all, I'm just saying, you know, we already have derelicts that's living over there, even with the house over there. They finally started taking care of the garden. I'm not going to be in favor of placing a bench there. I'm just saying you're going to create a place for people to hang out that should not be hanging out. I'm not in favor of a bench. You know, don't make things convenient. Let it be a passive park if that's what you want to do, garden, but please don't put a bench in there.
Then I will withdraw my request for a bench. And see about putting any fruit trees. How about that?
That's even better. Maybe they could cut down orange trees again. Good, yeah, let's go.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, we'll work with the garden club coming up with a plan for that.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, any further discussion from the board? Seeing none, all those in favor state so by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Congratulations.
Thank you, and I'd just like to thank the CRA for their continuing support for Habitat.
Yes.
It's very meaningful for us, and we appreciate everything you do for us. Thank you.
Welcome. Moving on to item 14E, consideration of Community Caring Center of Greater Boynton Beach, Inc.'s grant agreement for the Boynton Beach CRA fiscal year 2018-19 nonprofit organization grant program.
Motion approved.
Second.
Any discussion from the board? Seeing none, all those in favor state so by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Moving on to 14F, Neighborhood Officer Program First Quarter Report for fiscal year 2018-19.
So move.
Second.
Any discussion from the board? Does the Neighborhood Officer Program want to make a few comments and say a few words? No?
I need to make a comment, though.
All right. Yes.
Right. The comment that I'd like to make is that we're still waiting for the recommendation coming back to us from the new chief. Yeah, that's the only comment I'd like for the record.
And for the record as well, I'd like to thank the Heart of Boynton Beach Association for recognizing the Neighborhood Officer Program and all the great work that they've done for the CRA district for the past 3 or 4 years. Any further discussion from the board? Seeing none, all those in favor state so by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Tree lighting information.
Yes, Board, the item before you, at your request at the January meeting, for staff to look into the costs associated with kind of more permanently wrapping the 2 banyan trees in Dewey Park as we did for the holiday tree lighting ceremony and for the holiday season. This would be a more permanent fixture without the holiday balls and other things that clearly designate the decoration as holiday. These would be just trunk wraps and branch wraps. The cost to do that, which you asked us to find, is a range between $5,500 to wrap both trees, and then you can save money by doing one or the other. But the two together, which I think would be the recommendation from staff, would be $5,500. It's important to note while the FPL charges are very small, $40, $50 a month, the lights themselves are not designed like your house to last years. So we would just want to anticipate at some point providing additional funding if you wanted to go forward with this, set aside some additional funding for replacement strands during the year. So we would increase that slightly for repairs and service than just the $5,500 to install. But that's what we've done for you.
Board Member McCray.
Thank you. I'm going to go ahead and say I'm not in favor of this because we have other parks, and if we start doing it for one park, they're going to start saying, well, then why can't we get ours wrapped, you know, and I'm just saying this is a cost that we're going to be acquiring that we might not need to acquire. And I don't know when will that, whatever they would do it now, Town Square is going to be ready, but just in case it don't get off the ground, we're going to need some place to have another holiday, and I'm just not ready for lights to be down there. I'm just saying we could do the holiday lighting down there again. It was fine with me. Those are my comments.
All right. Vice Chair?
My question is what, for example, does, not to bring up our neighbors from the south, but Delray Beach, those lights that they have on those poles going down Atlantic Avenue, what are those lights and how do they differ from these lights? Why didn't we get a quote for that? Could that potentially work and be a better cost-saving thing instead of every 6 months, which is what I'm seeing this is potentially telling us here?
We were just asked to look at the tree on a year-round basis. So if you want us to look into other ways to accent the avenue, we're happy to do that. We were just following the direction specifically at the last meeting, but absolutely. They use LED wraps or some other type of, on the light post, you know, not single lights like you would a tree.
I think that's the issue here where you're talking about individual lights here, and if we could just do something that's more cost effective and that could potentially just activate, like you said, the entire Ocean Ave instead of just perhaps Dewey Tree or Dewey Park, the tree.
Dewey Tree.
The tree in Dewey Park. That perhaps this would actually be a more amenable project. So perhaps maybe come back with something like that for us. That's where I stand. I'm not in agreement with this though.
Right. Well, I was thinking of option 2, and with the regards of just getting the public comment on it. Do we have a Rock the Plaza on Ocean Avenue or any event, or our Blarney Bash, correct? And so if we agree for the Dewey Park, would that be up in time for our Blarney Bash? And that's kind of where I'd like to see it moving forward is that how much money are we already spending on Blarney Bash? I believe it's, what, 30,000?
I was going to say, yeah, between 30 and 35,000. I mean, $3,800 extra to add additional lighting is not, it's up to the board, certainly.
And that's kind of where your comment saying that more people would want this, I think that's a benefit. To have it at more different parks or different streets. I know that when I was on Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard, they used to have street lighting, and it hasn't been happening for a long time. And so I think that having the lights at night that aren't very, that don't cause much light pollution is something that we can look forward and really ask the comments at the Blarney Bash, do they like these lights and do they want to see more of it year-round versus just on Christmas? So I'd like to entertain a motion for option 2 in time for Blarney Bash.
What, to have the tree lit up again?
Yep.
My only issue with that, Mayor, is again, I mean, there are several circumstances here that make this a precarious situation. You're talking about after March 1st, there's a potential 25% increase to these costs that we've been estimated at, and then you're talking about all these different service options for if a strand goes out or something, we're paying $45 per hour per installer, we're paying $75 per call. I mean, there's a lot of extra fees that are associated here that's not going to be just that $3,800 that you're looking at here. So that's where I stand. I don't feel comfortable moving forward with this. If it's a more permanent option, like what I mentioned in terms of potentially just wrapping our poles, our street lights along Ocean to beautify it and to add that, lit aspect, which is what I think you're looking for, I would be in agreement with that, but not this.
And that's kind of where I was at as well, is that this would be the start of the permanent option. Because like if we still have a permanent option, these costs don't go away. If a strand goes out or any service call or anything that goes wrong, unless we try to get a warranty on the lights, and I don't think this company gives out warranties for the service and the product.
These are individual single Christmas lights. They're not like a rope light like what I'm asking. That's the difference in terms of what this is showing us and what I'm thinking of. It's two different things.
Okay, all right. With that, would you like to make a motion regarding your comments for a more permanent lighting fixture in Dewey Park or in another area, or just getting back information?
More information, again, at Dewey Park, but also potentially along Ocean Ave, because we're going to keep having Barney Bash and Pirates Fest and other events, and I would like to really make, since this is our downtown, really make it attractive and appealing. So I'd like to have staff just come back with some more numbers and permanent options and things that could be there year-round rather than having to be replaced every 6 months or something like that. That way we can see what our options are.
Board Member Katz.
Yeah, I'm in support of looking into it a little bit deeper. I think that with all the stuff that's going to be going on Ocean Avenue, the construction and everything, I'm not overly eager to jump into this, but I think that over time it'd be important to have some nice light features, whether it's at Dewey Park or on Ocean itself. I would only say that per the Vice Chair's recommendation that let's get a robust analysis of lighting options, because I know we have the LED lights in the ground, but I guess per previous conversations, they require someone to literally approach each light and press a button, so it's not on like a system. I think that whatever we do, whether it's in 6 months or when Town Square really comes online, that we look at an efficient way to manage it, and look at options and possible variables. I like how on the water tower we have the option to change the lights, and it's easy, at least as far as I know. Whatever we do down there, I think should be adaptable. So if it is for Blarney Bash, it's not, white Christmas lights, it's green lights, or, whatever the event. So just, it'd be a worthwhile investment to spice up Ocean Avenue at a time when Ocean Avenue gets activated in 12 or 18 months, whenever we can get everything going.
All right. So, Vice Chair, would you like to make that motion?
A move to have staff come back with just more permanent options for us in terms of lighting, and to add Commissioner, Board Member Katz's comments in terms of making them flexible around our annual holidays.
Check with city staff on that.
All right, thank you. Any further discussion from the board? Seeing none, all those in favor state so by saying aye.
Got a motion, did we get a second?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't hear Amy.
No worries.
You got to speak up.
No, it's all right. I heard it.
Good night.
Yeah, but I
All
need to
those
hear
in
it
favor,
too.
please state so by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed. Motion passes unanimously. New business, consideration of grant funding for the Boynton Beach CRA fiscal year 2018-19 nonprofit organization grant program. Twee, into the microphone.
Microphone.
The item was before you last month for the grant approval for the CCC. We're here this month for the grant agreement to implement the grant amount of $19,000 for the culinary incubator. And the motion we would be seeking to the board is just to approve the funding request, actually to approve the grant agreement that's attached there. Sorry, that is for the winter nonprofit, I'm sorry. So this is the, for the Habitat, we have two. This is for the allocation of $75,000 for Habitat's grant application. They are seeking to use this money for 3 single-family home units. It's to note, 2 of these units, it's a villa, which was previously approved by the board last year, but they were late in getting the construction started. So some of the funding from last year will be spent on those 2 units, and then the rest will be spent on with this year's allocation. They're also asking for some funding for 3 critical repairs to maintain the affordable housing that's in the Heart of Boynton neighborhood, as well as funding their programs for a Brush with Kindness. These are to help assist neighbors who may be elderly or who can't, do the cosmetic painting, window replacement, re-roofing, those smaller jobs like that. So we like that in that they're producing new units, affordable units, as well as the maintenance of affordable units. One of those single-family home is the property on 6th Avenue that was before you earlier. So they've received a 95% score from the evaluation committee and a recommendation support of their grant application. So we would like a motion to work with them and to bring back a grant agreement for you next month.
Okay, Vice Chair.
Sure. So what I'd like to add or potentially just ask if it's something that we can add to the grant. I know that Habitat works with volunteers and people come and help build the homes, but to kind of maybe kill two birds with one stone, how can we potentially, what we were discussing earlier with Board Member Katz's comments about creating a program, creating training, how can we potentially maybe work with Habitat where they can train individuals on some perhaps skills of home building and stuff like that? Like that could be a potential extra thing that is a requirement of this grant where they're training people and giving them certain certifications or something like that as they learn how to build these homes.
I think they're already doing that. However, I'm not sure if they have, and Jeff is here, to see if they have the ability to certify those individuals.
Jeff Fengler again with Habitat. At this point, we do not have a certification program for volunteers. It is something that we're actually actively working on. That has to be a community effort between the entity that it is helping us find the volunteers, setting up a program that, and this is just where we're headed with this, is that if we get some young individuals that either, have graduated from high school or maybe not, further education is in their future, is for us to be a school that they would come out and work on our job sites and learn the basic skills of residential home construction, whether that's framing, roofing, drywall work, irrigation, the things that we do in-house. And then once they've completed, quote, this course, and we feel that they meet our internal requirements to give them a certification that says, I've gone through this 6-month program with Habitat for Humanity, and we'll give them a certificate, and then we'll also help them in the job market because we have contacts with large and small contractors and give them a boost to continue their careers. We don't have the program laid out yet. We're actually looking at that same program with the city of Delray Beach because we think it's something that we can integrate very easily into our programs because there will always be, as you know right now, you can't find a construction worker. And the salaries are pretty standard. And once you learn a skill, you have that skill for the rest of your life. So that's something we're looking at. It's not part of the program or part of the grant, I don't believe, Twee. But,
no. But we can probably, if the board wants us to, we can connect them with and get the city of Delray Beach to give us some more information background because I know they work through Atlantic High School with the Eagle's Nest. And I think the bigger problem there is to find it's a liability issue for someone to certify and to have students work there. But that program's working really well in that the CRA funds the lot for the students to come and do that. But we can connect Jeff and see if there's anything that could be worked out and to replicate similar programs here if the board chooses.
For
we
future
can
grant, for future nonprofit grant offerings. So the offering that we currently have doesn't carry those criteria. Future grant offerings could incorporate exactly what you're talking about as we design it into the criteria that we're asking for. So you'd have measurables, the people that are applying have it already figured out or on their way to. So I think it's a great idea for future.
Exactly. Well, I think that's kind of where I'm going, where, in order for us to fix some of the problems that we have in our society, we have to always be willing to think outside the box. And I think that's where I'm trying to go with this. I'm trying to think a little bit bigger than where we just are currently. So I like where you're going and what you're thinking, and I would hope that you can continue down that path and incorporate that into some aspect of what you'll be doing here with us in Boynton Beach, because we have a large population of people who are looking for skills and looking for job skills. And I think as we give these funds to our nonprofits, we want to make sure that they're, again, not only doing what they do within our communities, helping our communities, but also providing opportunities for others individuals to have a leg up and basically help themselves and change their situations or change their potential avenues in life. So that's what I'm looking for and what the request that I made.
Housing, I think it's a safe way to meet the requirements.
Board Member McCray.
Thank you. How much money do we have in this account?
We had the line items 92,000. 19,000 was given to the CCC for the culinary incubator, and the remaining 76,000, 75. The grant only allows a maximum per applicant of 75,000. So the Habitat folks are getting 75,000.
Well,
We have 1,000 left over.
how much we got left over?
1,000 for this line item.
Is it against the rules to put in 76,000 then?
If the board, you
And
can.
use the last 1,000 and if you so choose to.
Yeah.
Certainly.
As,
It makes
I'm sorry,
sense.
Board Member McCray, please continue.
Thank you. Let me finish. Okay. If anybody else come and want grant funding, I'm just saying from us, after we do this, we have no more funding.
This is just for the nonprofit entity. We have another economic development grant program for for-profit. But
Let me ask another question. If another nonprofit comes,
we will not have any money for this year.
see?
We're not going to issue another, this is all of you put 92,000 in the pot. You had 2 cycles of, hey, everybody, we've got money, and you got 2 applications, and you've successfully found people for your grant. And there is no more applications for grant funding for
The board
nonprofits.
could allocate more.
You could allocate more.
Okay, but let me ask another question. Was this advertised? I'm just saying, because I don't want to go ahead and just like say we gave all the money away, another nonprofit come with another great idea, and we have nothing to fund it. I'm just saying, I know we can go back and amend the budget and say we're going to put this in here. I'm just saying, I feel not being right. I'm just saying, saying we're going to clean out the pot and give all that's left over to Habitat. I'm sorry, I can't do it.
Okay. I'm in the mindset if Jeff and Habitat for Humanity could use that extra 1,000 in accordance to what their percentage is, I'm in favor of closing out the nonprofit grants for this year and wait till the next fiscal year, because we are not issuing another call to nonprofits, if I'm not mistaken.
I'm sorry, what was your last part about a call to nonprofits?
Are we going to put out information for the last $1,000 in this line item?
I mean, roll it over until next year was our
Yeah.
intent, so we're happy to let you use it, and we're happy to go through all of the steps and the public notices and the pre-application meetings, the 3 languages we put the information out to the public in. I certainly wouldn't want the board to feel like it was, let's call Habitat and have them show up for an application. We were extremely diligent in our 2 rounds of walking many different entities through the process and informing them of it, whether they chose to do that or not. But of course, the board can decide at any amount how much they want. That they're just, but
Board Member McCray.
Thank you. My take is that, they're doing a great job. I don't doubt that, but my whole take is that I'm just saying, 4 months down the road, somebody else might come, a nonprofit, and I'm just saying, and they might have the same, mindset as Habitat, and I'm just saying, well, we don't have any money because we gave all of it away. I'm just saying, if 4 months down the road they said they don't, nobody comes in, then let's give them some more money. I'm in favor of doing it like that, but I just can't go ahead and wipe out a pot of money saying, only 2 people showed up and this is it. I can't go along with that. I'm sorry.
Is there any further discussion from the board? Seeing none, do we have a motion and second? No, we have not. Thank you. Does someone want Board Member Kelly, was that for the 75,000 or the 76,000?
For the 75,000.
All right. Vice Chair.
I just have a few questions. We did award Habitat last fiscal year. Okay. Are we doing something, or is there a requirement where we ask for a yearly overview or something like that?
Yes.
I know you are, but I'm saying for the board, I think it would also be
We could do a
behoove us to do
report.
some type of nice
Yeah.
report and show the results of the money that we're giving out and what's being done with
Yes,
it, and
yes.
that
So-
way it can encourage this program to continue.
Yes, definitely. As part of your grant agreement and your direction to staff, the grant agreement has all the milestones and reporting period. Every quarter, they have to report what's being done, photographs of what workshops they've done, names, demographics, all the recipients' name and how they're progressing and getting the recipient's name. So yes, we can report that. Since last year was your first year, we don't have any data, but we will be having data after the end of this fiscal year to give to you for the last 2 grant award you did last year for both the CCC and the Habitat. Last year, Habitat received $40,000, again, for 2 villas, 2 rehab renovation type of project, workshops that they do, as well as the painting and minor repairs with the Brush with Kindness program. We also do ask each of the grant recipient before we finalize the grant agreement where they're putting the $75,000 so they can detail to us where they're targeting these areas. Of course, things may change, like I said, conditions with some zoning issues or setbacks and things like that. So we do adjust it, but yes, we can provide visuals the year end that I'm hoping to give to you the end of this year when both of the grant recipients have finished out their grant reimbursement. So we could do that for you, yes.
Yes, Board Member McCray.
Thank you. We gave them $40,000.
Last year.
Where is the report this year?
They are in their second quarter of reporting. We're reviewing that. They only received 20-something thousand for reimbursement, and we will be glad to give that to you if you choose.
So my take is that, Tweet and to Michael, I'm just saying, if we're giving money and we're supposed to be getting reports, I don't think it's fair for us sitting up here and we're not calling in reports and not seeing what they're doing with this money. I'm just saying, this is another problem. I'm having problems swallowing. I'm just saying, if we're spending money, I like to know, what are we spending money on? This is your report. They're supposed to have a timeline. This is the first report. I didn't see the first report. They got another one. It's not completed yet. I'm just saying, we're supposed to be getting reports. Reports need to be given to this board. We're responsible for the fiduciary of this money that we're passing out. And I think it's not a nice idea. I'm just saying, they're already behind on a report by y'all not giving it to us, and I'm just saying the ball is being dropped. I'm sorry.
Is there any further discussion from the board? I believe we have a motion.
Second.
Thank you. Seeing no more further discussion, all those in favor state so by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed?
Nay.
So we'll roll over 1,000 to next fiscal year for this grant, correct?
And the motion passes 4-1. Congratulations.
Thank you. Just a quick breakdown. We will use some of the money for ground-up construction, 3 different homes. And then the critical repair is, we'll take your funding and additional funding that we get to do things like impact windows, hurricane impact windows on existing homes, and also do re-roofing. And then the third one is our neighborhood revitalization, which is going in and painting and maybe do upgraded landscaping, and then possibly irrigation if it's required or requested. So those are the 3 different main funding projects that we use the cash for.
Board Member McCray.
Thank you, sir. I recognize that these are the 3 main fundings that you're saying that we're supposed to be, I'm still saying that it needs to be in a report form coming to this board.
It certainly will.
Thank you. I'm through with it. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it again.
All right.
Thank you.
Oh, I didn't get an answer to my question.
With the rollover of the...
Yep.
We got a head nod, yep.
It's undoubted somebody would come in for 1,000 to have that much reporting they have to do for us, but we will certainly give you all the report that's needed. It's, yes, it
I
can.
think the
it will
short
be.
answer is, I'm
Yes.
just saying, let's roll over the 1,000 to next
Yes, we can.
fiscal year. Okay, thank you.
Item 15B, 500 Ocean, status of retail space.
But requested as a board just an update on the, for staff to look into the current status of the leasing that may be going on at 500 Ocean. We've contacted and worked with the building department and the city's business tax receipt staff. There are 3 tenants that are in the process of executing leases and will begin their interior build-out for a total of about, about 6,000 square feet, 7,000 square feet of the 13,000 square feet available. So there is activity, unfortunately, as things go. You've got some empty space and glass, but I'm glad to know that they are signing some leases behind me. There's a lot of discussion that always doesn't end up in a lease, but certainly they're getting a lot of calls and doing a lot of showings. We've got a copy of their leasing brochure. We're in touch with them regularly and trying every way possible to assist them in their social media marketing, and any potential tenant that comes to the CRA and asks about space, we direct them to the broker that's in charge of the retail space. So if we've met your expectation on the report, it's really an information response to your direction last meeting.
Thank you. Any discussion? Yes, Vice Chair.
My only question, of course, our Economic Development Department is helping these local businesses to secure some of our grants?
We are, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Last item on the new business is discussion and consideration of transfer of vacant lot located on Northeast 11th Avenue to the city of Boynton Beach.
Second for discussion.
Yes.
Okay, Michael, I understand that this lot is not, buildable, and I'm just saying if we transfer that little slither, I'm just saying the people that will be splitting it up and getting whatever portion they're going to be getting, I'm just saying, are we trying to get any funds from them, or we just said it's free property?
At this point, the item is to transfer ownership to the city for purposes of right-of-way, and then the city can determine, based on the 2 properties together, how they would proceed with their right-of-way analysis or analysis of abandonment. That is not within the powers of the CRA, so
Okay.
by getting it to the city, it provides the property or the ownership to the right entity.
You answered my question.
Thank you.
Any further discussion from the board? Seeing none, all those in favor state so by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes unanimously. All right. For the CRA Advisory Board, we have put the item regarding the Cottage District. And did we also include a discussion for them before or after the charrettes to the public for our MLK Junior project?
I think they need to look at the MLK project as well.
Do you want it before or after the charrettes?
I want it before.
Okay.
Okay. We'll need a motion for that, please.
Motion
To have the CRAB
to have the
review
CRAB look at this before we have the charrettes with the citizens, and then if it comes back, it can go back to the CR, to that board to look at their comments and then bring it back to us as well.
All right. Thank you. Any further discussion from the board? Seeing none, all those in favor state so by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Seeing none, motion passes unanimously. And the other thing that I'd like to also mention is that I attended the Racial Equity Institute held by Healthier Boynton Beach and Healthier Del Rey. And I want to put on also an assignment for our CRA Advisory Board to see if we can do things, create more equitable grants for our economic development grants.
What, Mayor? I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
The Racial Equity Institute.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Held by Healthier Boynton Beach and Healthier Lake Worth.
Okay.
Basically, I'm asking our CRA advisory members to do some research regarding equity and see if they can make a recommendation to improve for next year's fiscal year what we can do to help with the situation regarding equity. Yes, please.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor state so by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Future agenda items. Any discussion on that? Seeing none, may I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Meeting is adjourned.